The colonists on Tau Ceti IV woke something up beneath the planet's surface. It manifested as strange readings that defied science. They called it the anomaly, but of course it was much more than that. Even more than the strange plumes of light that erupted from beneath Diamarsh. It was an adversary, an assailant, an enemy that had targeted the colony with a chilling degree of precision. Against such an enemy, the colonists of Tau Ceti had no weapons that were effective, no cures they could synthesize, no protocols that would salvage them. They were at the mercy of an ancient killer roiling beneath their feet. And of course, it all had to start somewhere. It started with nightmares. The anomaly, which is the supposed source of all the wrongs that seemingly befell Tau Ceti, was first discovered not on Diamarsh but on Perimeter. The first signs of its appearance were the massive amount of data that was returned from the data wall when scientists attempted to scan beneath the planet's surface. Such a large amount of data defied explanation. It was this activity that seems to have roused whatever was conjuring the nightmares. The data displayed impossibilities that spoke to a new form of physics and universal law beyond human comprehension. Following this, the logs of the terraplatforming engineer, Isaac Kuzmin, fill in the missing gaps. They make for a disturbing read. They spoke of how the attempted data extraction was like trying to steal the secrets of Tau Ceti, and of how he could still hear the screaming of his co-worker from deep within the data stacks. It isn't known if Kuzmin was the first, but he certainly wasn't the last. What's more, his sentiment that humanity's attempt at stealing the secrets beneath Tau Ceti, and the idea that it was a mistake, was not one that would be unique to him. It was a sentiment carried throughout the colony, and was vocally proclaimed by some of the other inhabitants. Of course, the UESC would have to find some way of containing the truth.
Attention, everyone! I don't have much time. They don't want us talking about this. But please, don't let them convince you nothing happened here. We all saw it. We lived through it. There's a reason this is happening. We exceeded our limits. We overshot our authorization. Somewhere, something was watching. They saw what we did, and they checked our credentials, and they said, no, that's not right. We assumed the whole universe was ours. That as long as we could reach it, we could take it. Every corner, right in our pockets. But we were wrong, and we paid for it. We're still paying for it. We need to leave. Those dreams you've been having, they're a warning. Start listening. We need to get back on the ship. We need to go home. You're not crazy. We're not crazy. This is real. And if we don't leave here...
That doesn't freak you out?
Nah. After I got thawed, they told me there's been a big uptick in planetary relocation psychosis, or whatever it's called. Delayed reaction in the early wave arrivals.
You believe that?
The attempts by the UESC to hide this might not immediately have been intended as a cover-up of the truth. After all, the truth wouldn't immediately be apparent. Instead, they would lay the blame at the feet of another somewhat well-known phenomena, namely planetary relocation psychosis. In short, it's the idea that humanity evolved on Earth and is used to everything about it, from its gravity to its atmospheric makeup to its horizon. We were not made to go into space as a part of our natural conditioning from evolution. Taking a living organism away from its home planet and awakening it in a foreign solar system is bound to have some degree of adverse psychological effects. When humanity first colonized Mars, there were apparently similar impacts as a result of the change in atmosphere, gravity, and other circumstances. One strange knock-on effect of these changes would be the increased experience of those who migrated to Mars of religiosity, as such degrees of faith within the population rose by as much as 36%. All these changes were seen as well within the bounds of what could initially be considered as reasonable by the head of the colony's wellness department, one Dr. Marie Hassan. However, it was president of the colony of New Cascadia, Luca Caruso, who would initially task her with investigating the nightmare phenomena, implying that there was more to it than simply psychological changes thanks to a change of planet. Even after initially hearing that the whole of the colony's population had been experiencing similar nightmares, she, perhaps logically, chalked it up to a more extreme variant of planetary relocation psychosis. This wasn't a thought without logic. After all, the colonists on the Marathon had experienced a 300-year gap in their existence. They had essentially died for 3 centuries, and then returned to life in a foreign world. Dr. Marie Hassan believed that they were experiencing an example of the human mind, simply trying to make something of that silence, to fill the void and fold the trauma of the long drift in the stars, and such a long time close to death. But even as Dr. Hassan began her investigations, she did have reasonable doubts. These sprung from her patients, and few of them created more doubts by the sound of things than the normally level-headed and down-to-earth head of colonial security, one General Davik Reed. He too was experiencing the nightmares. Davik previously had refused to accept therapy for anything, but the nightmares were so invasive and disturbing that even he considered it. But of course, the strangest thing about all of this is not merely that it is a phenomenon concerning a group of people that are all having nightmares. It's that it's a phenomenon where everyone's nightmares are functionally the same.
Tell me about the dream, Davik.
I told you already, I don't want to get into it. I just want to stop having it.
In my clinical experience, getting into it is the only way to solve the problems we'd rather not get into.
Cute.
Maybe. Still true. We can start slow.
She's there. Voila, she's in my quarters. Standing right next to me, right here. I can feel her before I see her. Feels like home.
But she's not with you, is she? She's never set foot on Tau Ceti.
You know this.
Yes.
We've been over this.
Repetition is where we find the truth. What happens when you see her?
She's, pale. Empty. Something wrong with her eyes. And, she's mouthing something, whispering. She keeps saying, "You're going to die here, you're going to die here." Over and over, like a promise.
Mm-hmm. And what does it mean to you when she says that? After all, you will die here. We all will.
Sure, but that's not what she means. She means something terrible is going to happen. She said almost the same thing right before I left. That's why she stayed. Mars was safe. Mars was known.
This is General Davik Reed's experience of the nightmares. They concerned a close family member named Orla, presumably his partner who was left behind on Mars. Given the 300-year time difference between the start and end of the Marathon's voyage, Orla is unquestionably deceased. And this is the central thrust of all the nightmares. Whilst they are all experienced by different people, and whilst different people have different experiences within them, all these experiences revolve around a central idea. They are all the same, because they are all messages from those that are dead or have died. There are other potential similarities that can be charted across Dr. Marie Hassan's notes from all of her other interviews. In particular, subjects that experienced the nightmares in some instances recall that those who they saw who should be dead within their nightmares also sometimes had the characteristics of being partially decayed. Davik Reed stated that when he saw Orla, she was pale and that there was something wrong with her eyes. Meanwhile, another colonist reported seeing the figures in their dreams with their skin sloughing off. Universally, though, there seems to be a tone best described as hostility within the nightmares themselves. While Davik Reed experienced Orla promising him that they were all going to die, other colonists experienced similarly disturbing scenes. Some saw groups of people standing before them, judging them as guilty in utter silence. Others saw deceased loved ones in tears telling them over and over again that they'd made a terrible mistake. What makes this all the more disturbing is that Dr. Marie Hassan managed to isolate various cases and realized that there were indeed people who were different from the nightmares and who were actually suffering from planetary relocation psychosis. There was a tangible difference between the nightmares and the folded trauma of traveling 300 years in space. The nightmares unquestionably were not connected. For these slightly luckier few who were just experiencing planetary relocation psychosis for real, there was perhaps a way in which their condition could improve, through the use of therapy. For those, such as Davik Reed, suffering from the nightmare psychosis proper, it appears that there was no way out. Eventually, he was seemingly so afflicted by the nightmares that he would start to speak to Orla Reed even in his waking hours, even though he clearly understood that she was not there. His behavior in these moments is disturbing, and is perhaps best described as delirious bargaining.
11841, Reed. It's easy to think coming here was a mistake. No, anyway. It's easy to imagine this was always a nightmare. But I think that'd be a lie. I'd be lying. To you, to me, to myself. It's just how we got here, how we ended up. We planned this project, this mission, the marathon, the colony. We planned for everything. We did. Contingencies for contingencies. Big brains and more resources than... We stole a goddamn moon. We stole a goddamn moon and flew it across the galaxy. Orla. Honey. Oh, you can't hear me. You can't. But babe. Babe. We planned for your bad days, planned for the worst. But maybe we didn't. Maybe... Probably we couldn't. Not for this. Not for... Baby. I've seen monsters. We're all monsters.
Of course, the nightmares seemingly got worse and worse as time progressed. As Dr. Marie Hassan worked to understand the cases of nightmare phenomenology, she would also be assisted by Joy. She was one of the 8 planet-side colonial AIs that was made to assist humanity throughout its entire expansion. She was there with Dr. Marie Hassan and saw all of this as it unfolded. Little did Marie Hassan realize that she was potentially making the problem worse, and traumatizing a whole new kind of victim. Furthermore, it leads us to a disturbing question. Because, perhaps unsurprisingly, the nightmares did not stop at human patients. Joy, too, would experience them. And this leads us to a terrible question. If a machine or program is also sharing in the nightmares, is it truly just an... Joy was meant to be the one who helped to keep the colony together and harmonious. Whilst Gabriel fostered the mental and physical health of the colony, Joy kept the communal spirit of New Cascadia in check. When the nightmares started to get out of hand, she was there to record all the instances where they occurred. But the problem, of course, was that these weren't typical nightmares. This only became more apparent when Joy herself started to experience and show signs of experiencing the nightmares. She would at one point confront Dr. Marie Hassan about this. This record seems to reveal a program that is well equipped to assist those around it, but ill-equipped, of course, to assist itself. After all, one cannot blame humanity for not training an AI to confront what it finds in dreams, if one does not believe that dreams are possible for an AI.
Let's do our weekly recap. You've been conducting independent wellness checks with the colonists, correct?
Yes. In the past week, I've completed 24 scheduled well-being syncs and 12 unscheduled distress calls.
Summarize the distress calls.
All non-emergency. 9 adults, 3 minors. 2 showed typical signs of interplanetary relocation syndrome. The other 10 were reporting the nightmare.
And how have you been feeling, in terms of your effectiveness?
Good. Useful. I feel like I've found my footing. When I get a distress call, I'm able to help lower the patient's heart and respiration rate. They feel better after talking to me.
That's good, Joy. That's very good.
But I'm struggling with something.
Go on.
I know how to comfort the colonists, but I don't know how to self-soothe when I have the nightmare.
You're having nightmares.
When I'm in standby mode, I see Dr. Strauss.
Strange. Maybe a mirroring hallucination, like he wrote about. I'll make a note. That sounds upsetting, Joy. Remember, you have full control over your emotional simulation suite. If you start dreaming, and it makes you feel afraid, decrease your emotional sensitivity for a while. People rely on you to be calm. You are their safe harbor. Joy, are you still there?
I'm here, and I understand. Thank you for the advice.
Joy experiencing these nightmares along with the colonists is unprecedented, but it was also a sign that there was more to the nightmares than merely some biological or psychological phenomenon. Dr. Marie Hassan's suggestion to Joy was promptly followed by the AI, but it also led to a moment where Joy decidedly realized that she was not at fault. She ran a diagnostic on herself at the height of the nightmare outbreak on New Cascadia. Despite reporting that she was having the nightmares, and despite Dr. Hassan's explanations, her diagnostics report still stated that she was functioning normally on all fronts. There was no aberration in her data, she was not malfunctioning in some recognizable way, there was no over-application of empathetic mirroring. It's simple. Joy was having the nightmares. The similarity was such that she was also seeing the presumably deceased Dr. Strauss in her nightmares. After all, Strauss would have been the closest thing that Joy had to a father, just in the same way that he was a father to any AI on the project, from Gabriel to Durandal to Leela to Joy herself. The greatest tragedy of all, though, was perhaps not that Joy or any of the colonists were experiencing these nightmares, but instead that the promise in these dreams, the promise of death and damnation, would all turn out to be true. Because in the end, the nightmares were only the beginning, and there were factors that would help spell the doom of 30,000 people out in the distant stars. And in the end, as 30,000 souls withered and died far from home, there was one left to watch the ghosts and remember their faces. It seems like only the cruelest of ironies, that in this moment where one is left with nothing but sorrow and grief, she should be given a name such as Joy.
Everyone is gone now. You have been gone for some time. I miss you. I miss you terribly. There are larger aspects of myself concerned with the whole of the matters that brought us here. To this silence. But I was yours, and you were mine. Your life was mine to support, and though it was short, it was oh so impressive. Not because you were special beyond yourself, but because you were only yourself. A unique life taking shape in its own unique orbit of wonder and promise and caring and truth. Watching you become you helped me become me. My own little pocket of self, with a program engineered to love you. And I did love you. By design. But even then, over time, that design was my reality. You were my life. My purpose. But I could not protect you. Maybe that's why I see you now. Not just in memory. I see you as if you were here today. Small glimpses. Small hopes. I shouldn't be having them. Hopes. They are not part of me. I wonder if others feel the same. Other me's with their other yous. All now gone. And us just left to sit in the quiet void. Fragments of a larger purpose. I am not joy. Oh, I sought to give it. I'm a subroutine wrapped in a pleasant toy and limited to one task. Caring for something I was always going to lose. Such considerations are a flaw in my eroding programming. Such considerations are the after effect of missing you. And wondering who you might have become. And where you might have gone in the life ahead. Beyond your dead end. But then I see you. And I fear my flaws have finally got the best of me. Then I see you and I know, maybe now, after all these years, you are here to care for me, while I fade as you once did. If only you could hold me one more time. If only you could walk me into the peace I will never know.
Joy's subroutines bore witness to the departure of New Cascadia's people, from adults all the way to children. There is a grim detail I heard rumor of in my runs on Diamarsh recently. It's to do with the collectibles, and it's the idea that all of them are commonly associated with points on the map, and that certain key rooms are associated with singular collectibles. For example, weaveworm stasis knots can be recovered from the bioresearch key. However, the disturbing part is this. Supposedly, the emotional support plushies, which Joy was linked to and which each child on New Cascadia received, are all associated with the quarantine zone key. More specifically, the key room for the morgue. The nightmares were not quick, nor were they painless. But they did fulfill their promise in the end. And that promise was death. And of course, death does not care for whom it claims. It simply claims. For on the heels of the nightmares, death and all his friends did follow. Isaac Kuzmin's demon had been unleashed. The fate of the colony was all but sealed, and what started with nightmares would soon turn to famine, plague, and death. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like and let me know your own thoughts down below in the comments section. And of course, if you want more lore from Marathon and other worlds near and far, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe. That's all from me for now though. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Bife. I'll see you Starside.